What the fuck, Vikings? Yeah, that's the name of our episode today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night, 11:21. It is the 23rd of February, yeah? Yep, that's what time it is. This is the Backups Podcast. This is the most famous podcast you've never heard of. I'm Seb Burnett, and I'm with my co-host, Tex.
I'm here. Yeah, I made it. Whatever.
He's here. Estás aquí. Yeah, we got a good show for you this evening. We are drinking. That is for damn sure. I've been working on some bourbon all night, and I'm about to switch to beer, so you know it's really about to take off. We got some good stuff for you today. We're going to break down the Vikings 2017 season as we've been doing in our 32 and 32 with the Patriots and the Eagles. We're going to add it to this episode and bring you guys a little bit more. We're going to talk a little bit about Jarvis Landry and some of the franchise tagging that's been going on. We're going to talk a little bit about the rushing doping, really just saying, duh. What else? Anything else, Tex?
I really want to talk about the reason why the Olympics keep banning underwater basket weaving. I mean, hello, it's pretty important.
The most important.
Hey. Oh, it's about to get litty.
It's about to get litty in this bitch. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to do the same thing. All right, you ready?
I am ready.
10
Barrel Brewing Company Raspberry Sour. Says Raspberry Sour Crush at the bottom.
Nice.
Really boring can, but for some reason it appeals to me. It's just
I get that. Simplicity. Yeah, I've had the beer. I've had the sour. It's pretty solid.
I like sweet. I like sour. I like Sour Patch.
I get that.
Raspberry Sour.
Dude, what are your favorite candies? Have we ever talked about this? Wait. We got to do the intro thing. Holy shit. Hey, Tex.
Yeah, what's up, Seb?
Let's do this shit. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize. That's the intro. That's the closer music. Here you go. Fuck you. We're drunk.
Ready, set, hold on tight, folks. We're bringing in the Backups. It's the Backups Podcast with your hosts, Seb and Professor Tex. Let's do this thing.
Okay, so you're drinking a very simple beer. It's a sour. Which one? It was the raspberry one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had the cucumber one?
Yeah, so I was just about to bring that up. So the cucumber one is good. Very clean, crisp, light. A cucumber sour. I mean, cucumber is not very well defined flavor. It's a very neutral flavor, in my opinion.
Sure.
This raspberry is delicious. And I'm not saying the cucumber's good. I'd have it on a hot summer day when I'm probably mowing the yard or something. But this raspberry is like a good dessert beer.
I get that. I totally get that. Well, I am working on. All right, so I haven't mentioned it on the podcast yet, but I'm thinking back in Thanksgiving, I went to visit. I have a group of friends, and we always do every year. I know I have friends. It's
that was
fucking weird. I know. Anyway, and we always do like a Friendsgiving sort of thing, and we did that this year. And my buddy, he likes beer. I don't think he likes beer as much as we do, but he does like beer. And I of course brought, I think, Tropicalia and then Scofflaw, and he handed me this beer, and it's in a pint can, and it's from Evil Twin Brewing. It's called Sumo in a Sidecar. The can is very interesting looking. It's very indie, and which is fine. And it was delicious. And I was with Sophie, my girlfriend. Yeah, that's right. Someone actually wants to see me naked. It's really interesting. Totally different thing in my life. I know. So crazy. We were in the liquor store this past weekend after we took a nice long walk. Then we realized that it wasn't quite 12:30 yet, so we couldn't buy anything from the liquor store. So we went and had a drink and then a lunch after like a nice workout walk. And I drank Scofflaw there, and then we went back and I saw the cans, and I was like, holy fuck. I totally forgot about this beer, Tex. It is so good. It's just a really good, like, IPA. It's got a nice fruity backbone to it, which I really enjoy in an IPA. I like your typical Hopsecutioner IPAs and whatnot, but I can also appreciate the fruity ones too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about some fruit.
Yes.
Is that wrong?
Yes, you are. No, not we accept all people on this podcast unless you're Hugh Jackson.
You're a loser.
All right, let's talk about the Vikings. Let's talk about their season, which was, I don't know. Would you call it a successful season?
I would 100% call it a successful season, because if you were to tell me, I mean, you have to think about, I'll backtrack. You have to think about what they've gone through in the past 2 to 3 years with Teddy Bridgewater going down, and then they give up, a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford goes down. They have Case Keenum come in, and I doubted him all season. He had a ridiculous, from a statistical standpoint, he had a really good season and led them into the playoffs. I mean, I would completely say, I would totally say their season was a success, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl. They're a team that doesn't have many holes to fill, which is scary, very scary. So, their needs are few and far between, which is, I would put them in the same boat as the Falcons, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, and that's why they're kind of in the same position, if you know what I mean, or like placement in the draft is, you have these teams that a more complete team that has, well, I mean, I was about to say that has their starting quarterback, but I mean, even that's kind of a doubting thing with this Vikings team, because there are a lot of people that doubt Case Keenum. I personally like Case Keenum. I think he's good. But I don't think he's the end all be all. Like, okay, if I told you to pick between Matt Ryan and Case Keenum, who do you want?
Well, that's dumb.
Well,
of course you.
Okay, and if I told you to pick between Andy Dalton and Case Keenum, who do you want?
AJ McCarron.
Nice. Well, apparently they don't. The Bengals. Marvin Lewis has no desire for that. You don't want none of that business. But I mean, yeah. But that's a big reason, because in their entirety, the team are pretty similar in terms of, they have a lot of good pieces in place, and they have a lot of good young pieces in place. I mean, they have Xavier Rhodes, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and then they have Harrison Smith, who's arguably, where he is, in my opinion, the best safety in the league. Dude is an absolute monster. He's a maniac. They have a few things I think that they need to address. Of course, in free agency, the biggest thing everyone's going to be talking about is the Minnesota Vikings, and the fact that all 3 of the quarterbacks that they had on their roster are free agents at this point.
Yeah, and they're going to get that lockdown between now and probably the NFL draft. But, the overall consensus is that they will keep Teddy Bridgewater, even though he's fighting to be an unrestricted free agent. They're hoping to toll his contract another season and get another year with him. And then Case Keenum, they could either franchise tag him or, sign him to another short deal or whatnot. But, a team like that, you have to understand they also have Anthony Barr. I mean, come on, that's pretty good, linebacker.
Yeah.
The team is really stacked from a defensive perspective. They really need to address in this draft the offensive line, which they're looking for a guard. Well, when you sit back in the back half of the first round of the draft, that's a perfect place to take a guard. They definitely have a need at quarterback, but I think that they're gonna ride it out. With the 2 quarterbacks that they have, and just play it out. I mean, think about this. They also lost their first round draft pick the second or third game in the season, got a freaking busted knee.
Dalvin Cook, he was supposed to be their bell cow, man. And thankfully that they had Jarrett McKinnon and what's his name?
Well, we're drunk, so we're not really going to be on the ball here, kids. Although Seb is on a ball. Latavius Murray.
Yeah, Latavius Murray. Nicely done. Yeah, and the fact that they were able to pull out their season with Case Keenum and those two, it just goes to show like how good of a coaching staff that they're working with and how good their receivers are. It's really awesome to see. They're not losing a ton. They are losing Jarrett McKinnon. Do you think they re-signed him, or you think they're like, okay, it's cool, we got Dalvin, we'll be fine?
I really don't know, because he showed flashes of greatness, and then, he kind of tapered off towards the end of the season, and Latavius Murray, did really well.
Right.
But it's just, I think it really depends on if he feels like he has a pretty good chance, in my opinion, of going to the Super Bowl, and if they can come to some sort of financial middle ground.
Right.
He's going to be the top paid running back, and he shouldn't be because of Cook and whatnot. So I could definitely see him signing a 1, 2, 3 year deal, but nothing crazy.
Right. Well, I mean, they can kind of I feel like they can make up the money difference if they do turn out to cut Latavius Murray. I'm not saying he didn't have a good season, and I feel like he did better with the Vikings than we've seen him do when he was with the Raiders or whoever he was with before that even. 2018, he's a 1.2 million dead cap if they cut him, but his base salary is 5, so they can save a little less than $4 million by cutting him. And then that could be used towards, Jarek McKinnon. And then I guess you just have to wonder, is Dalvin Cook, is this going to be a repeat thing?
Yeah. I mean, typically after you tear your ACL, you do it again. It's pretty fun. I would recommend it. I've torn my left ACL, and it was a blast. I did it when I was in the 8th grade.
Was it when you were in NAM?
It was in a Fiat fucking NAM. I hope that's where you wanted me to go, because I totally went there.
Nailed it.
Yeah, but the Vikings really don't have that many needs. Like I said, they do have the need at guard and potentially defensive tackle or quarterback. But I mean, come on, like, this is a team that had a really, really good season and surprised a lot of people, honestly, especially with their head coach. Isn't their head coach? The hell is their head coach? It's not. I want to say Norv Turner. It's not Norv Turner. It's
Mike Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer. So, he's one of those perennial coaches that bounces around the entire league. So,
but I mean, somehow he really pulled it off this year. I definitely see them going like a guard. Will Hernandez is said to be available. Then they could just go offensive line in general. Really, a lot of people have Mike McGlinchey falling there. Mike doesn't really have great arm length, and it could cause some issues against the really big and kind of strong left ends that he could be going against. So I think he'll end up playing right tackle more than anything. But I definitely feel like it would behoove them to grab him and just kind of shore up that offensive line, because that's the biggest thing that they're going to be wondering, especially if they decide to go the way of Teddy Bridgewater. They have to protect the shit out of Teddy, because he's fucking glass. He's more fragile than Robert Griffin III, maybe.
I just wanted to wait. And just let it be dead air. I know, because you just awkward for a second.
Oh God! All right. Okay, let's talk about Tex and I were having a conversation. Of course, more than I'd like to admit, our conversations revolve around what the fuck are the Browns gonna do? Because this is such an interesting position that they're in. We were swimming around a bunch of not crazy theories. I mean, it's just the different ways that things could go this year. But one of the main focuses we were talking about today was picking up your cornerstone running back at 1. At 4, you would still have your pick, not pick, but like there's 4 main quarterback prospects that are coming out. You'd still be able to get one at 4 if you traded that, like if you didn't go Saquon Barkley at 1, right? Isn't that what we were talking about?
I'll simplify it for you because you've been drinking. Ladies and gentlemen, the Browns are not going to take a quarterback at 1. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. There is so much parity in this year's draft. There is not a clear-cut, true, at this point, February 23rd, 2018, quarterback that has distanced himself from the crowd. With that being said, there is a clear-cut number 1, tier 1 running back. His name?
Saquon Barkley.
That is correct. He is the clear-cut, at this moment, number 1, tier 1 running back. Is this running back class deep? Yes. But you do not know if you're going to have an opportunity to get him at 4. Anything could happen. I think you sit back, you take your clear-cut number 1 running back, Saquon Barkley, and if you look at, in recent history, the teams that have taken those quarterbacks or those running backs to settle their young quarterbacks down, you look at Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. You look at Leonard Fournette and Blake Bortles. You look at Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. Like, all of these examples are perfect for a rebuilding system. Barkley is perfect for this system, especially with the draft picks that the Browns have this year, and they're going to load up. And by taking Barkley, you force people's hands behind you, right? And inside of you. Or that was awkward.
I got excited.
You force, because there's talk about the Giants potentially taking Barkley, or the Colts. I would say probably 8 out of 10 teams in the first round need a running back. And here's the thing: every year, you always leave the NFL draft and you look at how the chips have fallen on the first round, and you say, "Golly, I did not expect that to happen." If you pass on Barkley, I guarantee you one of those situations is going to happen, and you're not going to get him at 4. So you pick up Barkley, you solidify that running back position, and you let the chips fall as they may behind you, because even at 4, you're guaranteed to get a top 4 quarterback in this year's draft.
Yeah, and that's it. And the thing is there's still other solutions that you could do. If you want to, if they decide, if John Dorsey and his staff decide that's the route that they want to go with it, they go ahead and sign like AJ McCarron to a front-loaded 3 to 4 year deal that's easy to separate from, to where he doesn't get a ton of money and he's not a huge cap hit after 3, because AJ McCarron still needs time to prove himself as a quarterback. So it's like, look, we'll give you this money, but you get 2 years, and then you'll be able to go, and if you're good, someone's going to give you a big deal. You're young enough for that, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't even think you position it like that if you're the Browns, because the Browns were already, and this is why we're bringing this up, folks. The Browns were already in a position to make a trade for AJ McCarron this past year. It fell through. And so the Browns made it known. AJ McCarron's camp knows that the Browns wanted them. So not only did you not have to give up a pick, but you have a team sitting there that has actively said, "Hey, AJ, we want you. We want you on our team. And we have a lot of cash." So, no matter what happens to the Browns and how they structure his contract, it is still an NFL contract. You can still get out of it. It'll hurt you for a year or 2, but hell, we're talking about the fucking Browns, franchise. They've been hurt since 1999 when they came back to Cleveland. So, but that's real talk. And I think if you look at the Browns, you get Saquon Barkley, you sign AJ McCarron because you had an interest in him, and his camp knows that. then at 4, your options are completely on the table if you wanted to trade back a few spots.
Yeah,
get some
exactly.
capital,
Well, the thing is, I mean, even if you decide, okay, at 4, say 2 of the biggest developmental quarterbacks are still on there. In my opinion, Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen are the most quarterback NFL ready quarterback prospects that we're looking at, that everyone's talking about. Don't get me wrong. I think Mason Rudolph is kind of the B to their A. I think he would do fine in a decent team, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about your top 4 of Baker, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, and Josh Allen. If Josh Allen is there at 4 and you have AJ McCarron signed, I'm completely comfortable if I'm the Browns drafting Josh Allen, because he can sit there behind AJ McCarron. He can learn the game and adjust himself to the speed of the NFL. It's in how to conduct himself. And then you're good to go in 2 years. Because, I mean, I feel like that's the period of time you would know if he was going to be good or not. And from everything everyone is talking about, this guy has all of the intangibles of a starting good quarterback in the NFL. He just needs time, and he's.
Here's the thing, though. You're not going to get AJ McCarron unless you honey dick him and you lie to him, and draft Josh Allen, because the expectation is if you take a quarterback within the top 5, well, hell, even the first round, unless it's late. If you're drafting a quarterback top 5, there's the expectation that he's going to play within a year, 2 tops. He's not going to sit.
God.
Sorry.
I feel like there would be so much
pressure there.
So much insanity if the Browns. You're okay. So you're telling me right now the Browns aren't going to select a quarterback in the first round?
I mean, my gut feeling right now, February 23rd, 2018, is the Browns sign AJ McCarron because they're being very quiet right now, super quiet. And there's been a lot of reports that the Browns are going to go quarterback at 1. I think that's posturing. I personally think that's posturing. I think they are trying to get everybody else nervous and freaked out that they're going to take a quarterback to where some trades start happening. But when everything falls and the chips fall, you're going to find that AJ McCarron finds his way to the Browns. When that happens, you are going to see a tidal wave. Barkley will go at 1. The Browns might even trade back from 4, depending on how everything falls. But if everybody knows that the Browns are not going to take a quarterback, then I could see the Giants possibly trading back because people want to jump the Browns, and get, or jump, the Jets or the freaking, Broncos. So, there's going to be some posturing within the draft as well. And, they're stacked, dude. They got the first and the 3rd pick in the 2nd round. There's a ton of value with that. If you could just, and look, I'll put it to you this way. AJ McCarron doesn't even really have to be an elite quarterback. Do you know why? Because Blake Bortles isn't an elite quarterback. And what were the Jags this year? They were 1 game.
You mean, wait, did you say 1 refereeing crew away from the Super Bowl? Yeah.
Sure. So they showed you that, hey, good running back, which I just mentioned, a viable quarterback, which we don't know, right? We don't know if AJ McCarron is Jimmy Garoppolo or is he freaking Derek Anderson.
How dare you? Derek Anderson was a Cleveland legend, sir. Jimmy Garoppolo or Jimmy Clausen. How about
for
that?
1 year. Yeah, okay. I'll take both of those Jimmys. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just my thing. I think the front office for the Browns is really, really good. And they have a lot of draft capital. They get their main running back at 1. They get their quarterback before they even walk into the draft. And then at 4, they either take the 4th best player, available
Right.
in the
Dude,
in the draft.
That's
or
so
they trade
interesting
back.
because okay, so the Browns get Saquon Barkley at 1. Then there's just Giants phones are ringing off the hook for people looking to trade up. Jets, yeah, and then the Colts at 3.
Yeah.
The Jets are calling the shit out of them, or the Broncos. Cleveland Browns at 4. That's when desperation mode. Because if 2 quarterbacks go there, let's call it Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. They go 2 and 3. No. Just hang on. No. The smorgasbord of picks the Browns could weasel out of somebody looking to jump up there to 4, like the Bills or the Dolphins, which leads us into our next point. And we were talking about this earlier. We both think the Dolphins are making the play, right? Okay.
Well, I'll say this real quick.
Right.
Barkley at 1. Don't think about Rosen getting selected by the Giants and everything that
a team
causes.
would trade up because they're like, holy shit. If we trade up to 2 with the Giants, we have our pick of the quarterbacks.
I don't think this is my thing. If the Browns walk into the draft with their quarterback in hand, A.J. McCarron, they grab Barkley. The Giants and Colts will stay where they are because teams will not have to jump the Browns. Guess who's going to make the call? One of 3 teams. Dolphins, Cardinals, Bills. Those are the 3 teams that are looking to jump the Broncos and the Jets. And then the Jets and the Broncos are probably looking to move up. So, I think there's great value if you're the Browns walking into the draft. You get Barkley at 1, you're sitting pretty. At 4, you trade back to 11 or 13 or even trade back to 20 and 21 and get another, a third, second round pick and maybe next year's.
No, that's perfect. That's what I'm saying. It's like, that gives them so much leverage on these teams that want to jump up to that 4 place because they want to get ahead of from what you're saying.
Yeah.
If it goes that way, if the Giants and the Colts stay put, people are going to try to leapfrog the Broncos and the Colts, or the leapfrog the Broncos and the Jets. Exactly. So
yes, which makes the Jets have to pay that much more, kind of like the Bears did.
Yeah. And
just to move up 2 or 3 spots.
So beautiful for them. So beautiful. And then if it's a team like the Cardinals, who are, they have a fresh team coming in, essentially. They have a new coach who's probably going to want to make his make his name and get his guy and his quarterback. So who knows what they're going to be willing to do to jump up from 15 to 4. Who knows what they're going to be willing to give up. And that gives them, God, that's insane. That's so many picks for the Browns.
But think about it, dude. Out of Kirk Cousins and A.J. McCarron, which are the 2 darlings in free agency, outside of Drew Brees, yes, everybody, stop banging your fist on the table and saying, "Oh, Drew Brees, free agent." Okay, he's not a free agent. He's going back to the Saints. He will never leave the Saints. So go ahead and get that shit out of here. A.J. McCarron is the pretty girl that isn't the head cheerleader this year. I'm telling you, she's going to put out just as well as Kirk Cousins. She's going to cost you a lot less money, and she's actually going to set your team up really well. So I'm just telling you, dude, right now, I don't see Kirk Cousins going to the Browns. I see him going to the Broncos or Jets. And once that happens, A.J. McCarron will sign with the Broncos or with the Browns. And then everything, because think about it. The Browns fired their front office, right? And they hired some really, really good
the same front office that picked up Kareem Hunt in the 3rd.
and also was responsible for bringing, was it Alex Smith to the Chiefs, or
and then
drafting
Nathan
Aaron Rodgers?
Not Nathan Peterman.
No.
What's his name? Their new guy.
Yeah, right.
The new Chiefs quarterback.
Who? Oh,
yeah, Pat Mahomes.
Mahomes. So I'm super encouraged, but what you were trying to transition us to is there's another talk out there right now about Jarvis Landry and potential trade partners. And I think there's somebody that has a very prime position in the NFL draft that needs wide receiver depth, that's also willing to potentially trade out of that 3 spot.
Yeah.
And that's the Colts, right? So what do you think the Colts would be willing to take to move from 3 to 11?
Obviously, the 11th pick. I'm not super up on what the Dolphins' picks are for 2017 or 2008. Okay,
they have one of every round except
I would
for the
say
5th.
Obviously 11th, maybe their second rounder, then next year's first. I think the Dolphins.
You think he's worth that much?
The whole thing is, though, is that are the Dolphins going to be that desperate? I mean, do they not like Ryan Tannehill that much?
Dude,
no, I'm not doubting
Ryan
that.
Tannehill
But is
is
that
a fucking
what
joke.
Their coaching staff believes?
They don't know what you're talking about. Adam Gase, he had Ryan Tannehill for 1.5 season. He had him for 1 year, the shit season. Coming into last year, Ryan Tannehill tears his ACL before the start of the season. He doesn't know what he has in Ryan Tannehill, and he's being judged on a team that really, has been handicapped. So look at what the Dolphins are telling us. The Dolphins traded Jay Ajayi, their bell cow, because he was a bad, locker room presence and this, that, and the other, and was clashing with, coaches. Okay, cool. You traded your bell cow. You have 2 running backs that cost you next to nothing on your roster. You signed Jay Cutler to a 1-year deal. You can get rid of Tannehill, or, I don't know if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, but he costs you next to nothing. So why are you looking to get rid of Jarvis Landry? Because you're cutting bait. You're starting over. And what do you need in order to start
that's
over?
The basis of all.
You need a freaking quarterback. So I think they trade and they find a partner. I don't think the Browns are one of those teams that's looking to take on another wide receiver with a little bit of baggage. So. The Giants might need a wide receiver, but they have their own baggage with Odell Beckham.
Oh, yeah.
Good grief. Can you imagine if you link those two up?
And looking at Tannehill's contract, he'd only be a $4.6 million dead cap if they did cut him. That's not compared to his $17 million.
Nothing.
Or actually, I'm sorry, $19 million he'd make in total. Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's start over. That's start this shit
That's
over.
ridiculous.
And then,
well, that's why they're looking to do it. And Jarvis Landry, has quietly posted the best 4-year reception record for a wide receiver coming into the league. He has the most receptions his first 4 years in the league, in league history. He's only 25 years old. Next season, at the end of next season in November. Basically December, November 28th, he turns 26 years old. Okay. The Colts have a top 3 spending budget for salary cap in 2018. They have more than enough money to pay Jarvis Landry. And the Colts could not only pick up a wide receiver, which they need depth at that because they don't know about T.Y. Hilton
and Philip Dorsett.
While T.Y.'s good, he's not exactly Philip Dorsett. But, and if you were to rank them, Jarvis Landry would be far and above their current wide receiving core. and it would be a great target for Andrew Luck. R.I.P.
Andrew Luck will be fine.
R.I.P. Andrew Luck.
How dare you? Don't you waste
I'm pouring out a little bit of my beer right now.
Waste that beer, you fuck. He's gonna be fine. Don't even.
Think about it, though. Think about it. Seb, the Colts trade back to 11, which is a prime location for an offensive lineman. So not only do you get a wide receiver, you pick up an offensive lineman or a good, defensive, play because they're the Colts.
Right.
And you just say, hey, we'll get an offensive lineman next year or in the third round. But I think it's just a great move all the way around.
Right.
I think the Dolphins would get their quote unquote guy at 3.
I mean, I'm looking, this is kind of interesting. I'm actually looking at, I wanted to ask you about this earlier. This kind of takes us a little off topic. Do you want the Cowboys to re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence to a big ass contract? Not at all. So this is interesting. The Colts,
not at all.
Okay, let's say they did dive down to 11th, right? That would make them miss out on Bradley Chubb. They have a fuck ton of cap space, right? DeMarcus Lawrence?
Yes. No, because the Cowboys want to keep him for at least no matter what happens in 2018. DeMarcus Lawrence will be on their roster. Well, they're going to. They've made it known that they're going to franchise tag him in the hopes of working out some sort of contract. I don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence is maybe a little full of himself, and for good reason, right? He was a monster, but he was a monster for about a year and a half.
Right.
He's got some injury history. So for me personally, I'm not a big fan of overpaying for somebody like that. I'm just not. I personally. I don't really believe it. I'm sorry. I mean, I should be stoked as a Cowboys fan that, we found DeMarcus Lawrence off the waivers and gave him a chance and whatnot. But I would be perfectly content with rolling this season with him under the salary cap. See if he makes it through the whole season. See if he has an up or down season because he's still with Rob Marinelli and we've rebuilt the defense. So if you're as good as you say you are, play 1 year under the salary cap. We'll pay you that money. And if we work out a contract, great. If your production is still just as good and just as high and doesn't go down, great. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to go down or he's going to get injured. I don't mean to be a dick, but I'm telling you.
I'm right there with you.
That's my feeling.
You definitely know more about the comings and goings and the Cowboys and what they're apt to do, with free agency and all that stuff. So
they want to sign him.
Right.
But they're not going to overpay. That's just not in the Cowboys' DNA anymore. I say that, and then they go out and they'll probably sign him for $19 million a year. But it's my understanding that the Cowboys, he's not even technically their guy. He's not. Jerry loves to overpay, quote unquote, his guys. Like look at Des Bryant, right? He signed a massive contract and his numbers have been dog shit ever since then. And he's my man. Like he's staying on the team, blah, blah, blah. Lawrence isn't technically our guy. Like he's not our boy. Like we didn't draft him.
No, I'm right there with you.
I think he's viewed a little bit differently.
What do you think that the Cowboys need to do about the Des Bryant situation? Are you thinking that they should go ahead and kind of cut him or what's his dead cap looking like? Should they maybe if let's say no one picks a wide receiver, you have your absolute pick of the wide receiver when they pick. Where do they pick in the draft? 15? No, 19. They're 19. So say that no wide receiver
16.
has been taken 19? At that point.
Okay. Yeah. I think if no wide receiver is gone, it would put a ton of pressure on Jerry and his little, button. He might push a little button like Donald Trump has his little nuclear button. Jerry might push his little red button and say, we're taking a wide receiver. I could totally see that happening if no wide receivers are gone. Would I like that? No, I would freaking hate to see it because I know that they would probably choose the wrong wide receiver.
Which you don't like Calvin Ridley.
And by wide receiver, Yeah, I do not like Calvin Ridley at all. I'm sorry, don't like him. I'm kind of resorting to the fact that I would be content with another offensive lineman, just because it's just super important, and we spent a ton of picks last year on our defense, and I think we can give the defense time to mature and get some more playing time. I think they were coming together, really well down the stretch last season. So I would like us to either go offensive lineman or potentially safety. Pretty much every level of the defense. I just don't like taking a defensive tackle, just because, unless you're picking like a blue chipper, their life cycle on that line is just so short. They're in the trenches. So
you need to be further. You need to be further down in the draft.
Almost a win now situation. Yeah, well, I'm just saying if you're taking a defensive tackle, then because their lifespan is their time spent in the league is so short, because they're in the trenches. I mean, it's a wasted pick if you're not ready to go and loaded to go to the Super Bowl. And I just don't feel like we are. And so, okay, you pick somebody that's going to be in the trenches at 19 this year. He's going to be out within 4 or 5 years.
No,
by the time
I'm right there
another
with
contract, we're not going to re-sign him
until he's 30. Yeah.
Right. Easily. I mean, if they're good and viable,
and still he was with the fucking Vikings.
Terrence Newman,
and he actually had a good season.
41 years old.
An integral part of their entire game plan was Terrence Newman. Yeah, absolutely fucking insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. So,
all right, I think that about wraps it up. Anything else you want to dive into, buddy?
No, I mean, here's the thing. The Olympics have got to get this right. Okay, we have curling, which every 4 years it comes up in the Winter Olympics. Why are these guys? That's not a sport. I could do that in my sleep. Yeah, but can you do underwater basket weaving?
So wait,
You're laughing,
how does doping
Seb, it's
help
not funny.
you in underwater
this is
basket
a serious
weaving?
Sport. Okay. Because those women in their hands, good grief, they got steroid.
Meat knocker sounds like a really
knockers.
bad term for a hand job.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were forcing my hand real good.
Forcing your hand there, Seb.
All right, well, that's what we think about all the stuff. We've drunkenly rambled on for a solid 45 minutes now. We definitely want to hear what you think, though. You're definitely find us on Apple Podcast. You can find us on generally any podcast carrier. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, exactly. We're the Backups. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, www.thebackups.com. Yeah. Say goodbye to our listeners, Tex.
Goodbye. Farewell.
Not bad, dude. Bringing in the Sound of Music. I'm digging it.
That was pretty good, though, wasn't it?
You've been listening to the Backups Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, find us on iTunes, and visit the website at www.thebackups.com with a Z for more.